Welcome to Empowering Chats with Susan Burrell. This is where we have deep, intimate conversations about self-empowerment and future existence. I am an intuitive healer and a light leader who has been called to activate other light leaders. So I'm curious, are you one of them? So by listening, lean in and see if you are ready to be that eternal potential you've been called to be. Using your bravery, your talent, your tenacity, can you be innovative and adventurous in order to activate your light and lead from that place? This is where we learn how to love ourselves from the inside out and love the whole world over and over again. Enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to Empowering Chats. We are doing a replay of an interview with me. I interviewed with a woman, Amanda Hennessey, for her podcast, Building Confidence. And so I listened to the interview recently, and it's still really a good go-to for how do I get through the trauma I've been living with, and also who am I now? So take a listen.
I'm Amanda Hennessey, and this is Building Confidence. Fear of change is one of the most common feelings we have as humans. We fear changes in our routines, changes in our family dynamics, changes in our beliefs. As 2020 has shown us again and again and again, change is a guaranteed part of life. Seasons change, and our thoughts and opinions are constantly evolving, which is a good thing. That's why it's so important to make time to pause, look inward, and ask ourselves, who am I now? Who am I now that I've lost my job? Who am I now that I've fallen in love? Who am I now that I want to work for myself? Who we are is an ever-changing expression that requires us to pay attention, examine ourselves, and make choices for how we want to proceed. And in case you think you don't have a choice, stay tuned for insights from today's guests on that point. Spoiler alert, you always have a choice. My guest today is author, speaker, coach, and podcaster Susan Burrell. Susan offers her wisdom, spirituality, and her own life experiences to unveil her thoughts about the universe and the questions that we all need to ask ourselves. Here is my conversation with Susan Burrell. Susan Burrell, I am so excited to be chatting with you today. I've been learning a lot about you through the internet, clicking on different links to hear your wisdom. So I'm really excited to dig deeper into what I've already started to uncover. How are you today?
I'm well, and that's an important thing to recognize, right? Being well mentally, emotionally, physically. As I shared with you at the time that we're recording this, my mother passed away a month ago. So I'm in that kind of a place. So I just want to be transparent for your listeners, since this is a podcast about building confidence. I'm sure everybody that's listening has had some sort of dealy-do Megillah that kind of trips you up in the middle of your life or the second half of your life or the end of, whatever. So I just wanted to be transparent. That's where I'm at. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, I know it was a loaded question. And again, I really appreciate your willingness to be here, be open. As I said to you, I've had a lot of loss in my family in recent years, and it is a lot of things, and it is part of life. I'm saying a cliche, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm sure we'll revisit that throughout our talk. But let's talk about confidence for a moment. I think this is something you and I both think about deeply, often, and talk about with our clients all the time on what it means and what it looks like. So let me ask you the, super simple question. How would you define confidence?
Okay, so I'm really glad you started with that because I learned from a client that it's important to look words up. So before we got on, I looked up confidence and I'm like, oh my goodness. The definition I found for confidence is full trust, which I think I need to talk about. Belief in oneself, one's abilities, one's power, trustworthiness. And I'm doing the Girl Scout finger thing right now because I was a Girl Scout, right? And reliability. So confidence is trust, belief, reliability in your power. So that's how it's defined. In my experience, the trust thing has been one of my daily do's. I don't trust or haven't in the past. Some of that is my past, having been involved with multiple passive aggressive covert narcissists, which does a whole mind game number on you. So it becomes very hard to trust yourself or trust others. And when I work with clients, like you said, it's like, how do we build that inner confidence to do the next thing, whatever that is, whether it's dealing with death or divorce or health issues or finding a new job. It's not so much about looking at all the negativity within ourselves or around us. It's about, who am I now? And that's the thing I always ask myself. And I encourage people in my Facebook group, Live Your Empowered Life, to ask, who am I now? Who am I now without my mom? And so that question then requires not looking at the negative, which is also my thing. It's part of what undermines my trust. When I was in elementary school, I would make a list of all the things I needed to improve. And my two best friends, I would share that list and tell them they needed to do the same thing. This is who I was then. You know, I'm like, I'm not good enough, so let's all work together to become good enough. And what I realized in the second half of my most amazing, brilliant, empowered life, I'm so blessed, is that when I turn my attention on the things I think are not okay about me, they multiply. When I turn my attention on the things that I am okay with, that multiplies. And my amazing life partner who's with me now reminds me all the time. He's like, what are you focusing on? And then I have to remind myself to look at the good things, because the bottom line I want your listeners to know in terms of building confidence is that you already have it, that all the good that we are, all the peace that we are, all the love that we are, all the wisdom that we are, all the confidence that we are already reside within us. And it's been a cultural socialization, mass consciousness, debilitating paradigm that we've been under. And this whole lockdown COVID thing has been the thing that keeps us from recognizing the truth of who we are, from fully trusting ourselves, fully being that confident person.
I love everything you're saying so much, and that sense of what are we focusing on? And it's interesting, that sense of we don't want to be in denial. So we want to look at stuff. We want to see it, have awareness, but not get stuck there. Like, how do we go, oh, look at that thing about me. Not a fan. Okay, I'm aware. I'll try not to do that again. Moving on. I know I've definitely gone down rabbit holes of like, and then this, and that means this, and then like you're with rabbits in the dark, in the deer, and that sounds claustrophobic. So not helpful, but but I'm a friend who is so healthy about the way her relationship with her body. She has a number of friends who are actresses. I was an actress for a long time. And I think I read that you were as well. And so it can get, really intense, and you can really scrutinize your body, and I'm over it. But she was someone who's like, why are you looking at that part of your thigh? Just don't look at it. Don't look at it if it bothers you. I was like, you're so healthy. I love you, Dolores. So good. Can we go back to one word that you've used twice now? Dilly
do. I don't know.
I love it. I want to use it now. So I love that you also brought this to where we are in our world's history in terms of like this pandemic, game-changing time for all of us. And when I say all of us, I mean the whole world. So if the planet were to be your client.
Oh, I love this question. Go ahead.
Came to you for coaching, what would a first session look like?
So if I got chills. Okay. If the planet came to me as a client, the first thing I would say is you need to know there's nothing wrong, that you're not broken, because so many people on the planet think that they are. Now, these can be refugees.
On fire. What are you talking about?
Right. This could be refugees. It could be the fires. It could be anybody, because all that we need resides within us, in our conscious awareness. Then it becomes becoming consciously aware of the love that you are. This is what I work with all the time. So if the planet were to be my client, then I would encourage us to really focus on the love that we are, because it's the fear and the anger that ignites the fire, the divisiveness that makes people refugees and homeless, that makes people stand across the aisle and ignore each other. It's the fear and the anger. And if we can, as a collective humanity, move into that deeper connection within ourselves individually, that we are more love than we are hate, that we are more love than we are anger or fear, that we are more love than we are dis-ease. And that's what I attempt to do in my life is, when I go down those rabbit holes and I'm stepping on the little poopy doos down there, I have to turn my attention to love. And now I'm a redhead, born and raised. I'm a Scorpio. And my first reaction is I'll go kicking and screaming. Because who wants to change, right? Why can't I just go the way I've been going? Except that the planet and humanity and what we're seeing in the world is saying not anymore. To me and the people I work with, it's about becoming conduits for spirit. And by conduit, I mean it's a channel that goes through you, that moves through you. That means that any emotions that you haven't dealt with or energy systems that have downloaded because you didn't deal with trauma in your past, or maybe you were bitchy one day and you didn't deal with it, downloads energetically. And so becoming a conduit for spirit means that there's an opportunity to clarify your consciousness and rise above it. And that's challenging right now. I'll tell you, everybody that's listening, it's challenging to rise above the stuff we're watching. And when this actually airs, we will have gone through it.
Oh, yes. And we're talking about the election, folks.
Mm-hmm.
So I love what you're saying. And I just want to clarify a little bit. When you talk about spirit, what do you mean? Do you mean an aspect of us individually, like the spiritual side of us becoming the GPS we're using? What do you mean?
Here's what I know to be true, and nobody else has to take my word as their truth. We are all unique, divine emanations of some amazing source that when we become conscious, we can feel it energetically, but it's something beyond description. That's why I use the word spirit. I also use source energy as a moniker. It goes beyond our knowing, and it goes way beyond any organized religion. I said it out loud, any organized religion. And if you are partaking in organized religion, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just encouraging you to raise your conscious awareness to a higher level, because then we all have choice. We have choice, like we said earlier. What are we going to focus on? What are we going to transmute or transform or change? What are we going to accept about ourselves? And the more we focus on the higher vibrational tone that is source, that is energy, that is actually absolutely spirit, the more we focus on that, the more healing radiates out on the planet. And I'm not just talking about planet Earth, but the humanity. I'm a big advocate of meditation and really just asking yourself, who am I now? How can I serve? And listening, because there's within us that divine wisdom. That's why I said it's all in us already. All the love, all the peace, all the joy. That's what source is. It's all those things. It's also anger. It's also a bit of fear. So you can't reject one side of yourself and say, okay, I'm just going to be good. It doesn't work that way. You've got to transmute, for lack of a better word, those parts of yourself that you don't like in order for the love within you to grow more.
I love it. It's interesting because I'm often living in a city of Somerville, and it's not New York City in terms of enormous buildings everywhere, but there's high concentrations of people and a lot less nature. And right now I'm in a place so full of nature, and it's so much easier to get a sense of my soul here and get out of my mind. And I think that identification with the mind and the way it labels us, the way it judges what emotions we have. Because anger, if we're angry about injustice, there's love in that. If we're, I think when we can't push through, it becomes bitterness. And I think nobody wins with that. There's a place for anger. And if we don't know what to do with it, how to release it, how to advocate for ourselves or others because we're angry and we see injustice, that's where I think it turns into perhaps depression. It turns into all sorts of other things. But it is interesting when I find it easier to feel more in touch with my sense of my soul, of spirit, of a much deeper, wider perspective that can trust more deeply. Like, it's going to be okay, even though my idea of what okay looks like is perhaps very different from what a better world for all of us looks like. So that's one of the things I would say to the many really interesting things you were saying. So I know that a turning point for you prior perhaps to this pandemic was your divorce. And I'd love to just get a sense. I know mindset is something that you and I both believe is critically important. How are we going to do this thing called life? What do we think about it? What do we do with mistakes? What do we do with joy? What do we do? So I'd love to hear just a sense of what was your mindset before you got divorced?
So I got divorced after 28 years of marriage. And I really thought there was a part of me that really thought we'd last. You know, so many people get divorced after 20 years. The kids start leaving the house. Work is done, raising kids, which was actually what happened to us as well. My son was graduating from high school. He was 18, moving on to college. And there just came a point where my ex-husband just said, that's it then. We're done. And I was like, I wasn't ready. I wasn't prepared. If I had been really in tune with my abilities, my confidence, my empathic abilities, I would have seen it coming, but it hit me like a train wreck and shattered my heart. And what I realized is very early on in that marriage, there were things that occurred that made me not trust. And there were other things that occurred that made me not trust myself, being told that that wasn't true. I was making it up or whatever, being told. And
Gaslighting?
yeah, gaslighting. And what happened is I began to build a wall around my heart, which probably was a contributor to not having a long-lasting marriage. You know, I kept putting up bricks and walls and there was a moat and it was a huge castle, you know. And I realized that I had that built around my heart when I realized I was pregnant. I was like, oh my God, I have to love this little thing more than I've loved anybody, including myself. But what happened is the ongoing emotional abuse, I built it right back up. So the best thing, even though it was the most horrific thing I've experienced in my life to this point, and that includes becoming a type 1 diabetic at age 32, insulin dependent. This was the most horrific thing. It shattered my heart. It shattered my life. I had been denigrated so much. I had no confidence. You know, and I have a body of a certain age now. It's not my actress body, you know, where I was a size 0, you know, and I would look at that and go, who wants this body? Because that's what I'd been told, right? For 28 years. So I realized being the spiritual teacher that I have been for 20 plus years, I had so many skill sets. So I began to utilize them. Plus I developed a support team of people I could call when I was triggered or traumatized or needed advice. And those people were my go-to for 3.5 years. And I honestly didn't think I was going to come out of it whole, but that was my intention. I wanted to come out better than I was. So my words became freedom, happiness, and love. I wanted to love myself more than I ever had. I wanted to feel free from all the old belief systems. I really wanted to be happy. And so what occurred during that time is a lot of peeling of layers within myself. While I'm gathering all the paperwork that the legal system, and that's a whole nother conversation.
This all sounds incredibly painful and awful. And then to add then like detailed legal paperwork when you're losing your mind. It's, oh my God.
It's horrible. For many people, it's the thing that keeps them busy, gathering all that paperwork or doing all the due diligent crap you got to do when you're going through divorce. That keeps you busy. And knowing that it was keeping me busy, I also knew I had to do my work. I had to sit down and do my inner work if I wanted to come out better than I was. I've met several women that have gone through divorce and they haven't healed. And I can see it, you know, I can see it on them. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, and they're like, well, no, I don't want to have another relationship. Why would I want that? Yes, I still talk to my abusive ex-husband. What's wrong with that? I'm like, oh my goodness. So I knew because I was seeing that already with people that, you know, a bottle and a half of wine later, they couldn't stop talking about how bitter they were. And I thought, I do not want that for the rest of my life, to be bitter. So I had to work through it. I had to really reclaim myself. I had to decide what were going back to what are the things that are good about me instead of focusing on the things that aren't good about me that I'd been gaslighted into believing. It was a major inner journey. I came out healthier, happier, loving and respecting myself more than I ever did. And that's when I began to rebuild my business because I went, oh, wow, I'm really good at what I do. And I'm not saying that from a stuck up place. It was like a recognition of the soul work I've been doing and that is my gift to the world. And being empathic. I mean, I could walk in a room and I could tell you what was going on with people, but I didn't understand what that was. And now I do. And I utilize that when I work with clients so that many people that come to work with me, we can cut through the bullshit. And then I use the same tools with them that I used on me to get me healed.
It sounds like, you talk about it was a shattering time. And it sounds like it also had shattered the idea of who you thought you were, which was a gift.
It was
and I don't mean to say that in like a pat way, but that sense of I've had experiences where a certain truth is revealed and you're like, this is the most horrific day. And it's the best day because I see everything incredibly clearly right now. You got to get out of my life. Or like, wow, I've let this go on too long, whatever it is. But what I do love with those 3 words you chose is even if you didn't feel it all the time, you believed you deserved them.
Yes.
Think of like, I deserve to be free. I deserve to be happy. I deserve love. I deserve to be loved. I deserve to love fully. There's something in that which shows so much growth and so much hope and so much self-love already, even if you didn't feel it every second. When we believe we deserve those things, that's a huge turning point. I've had my own journey with all this kind of stuff, but I see other friends who I so want to fix and I have let that go, working on myself there. You have to get really over it. You have to bottom out on how either bad you feel or stressed or scared or whatever it is to be like, I don't deserve to feel this way. I don't want to live this way. This is not my plight, this martyr thing or this like everybody else gets it and I don't. So I just love that those were your words and there was something in you that believed I deserve it. I haven't had it, recognizing that even maybe from the outside, this all looked pretty good to people and they thought I had.
Oh, yeah.
But I really don't. This is really scary. And being an empath, when you're around people who are not well, I'm an empath as well. If we don't know how to navigate that or what's going on, it's really hard to know where you stop and where other people start. And like you're picking up all this stuff in the room that people are not talking about. And it's, those movies where people are superheroes and someone early on notices they have special gifts and like takes them out and puts them in a special school. Like, you're now in the superhero school because your arm can suddenly become 6 feet long, whatever it is. I feel for empathic children or highly sensitive children. They need a mentor early on because they're taking in all this information and then not knowing what to do with it or like
right.
How to not take it on to be like, I feel so sad. Or even to ask the question of like, whose sadness am I feeling? Especially if you're around people gaslighting, you have a sense something's going on. And then someone's being like, you have no idea what you're talking about. You're crazy. And you're like, I do feel uneasy. No one else is validating this. But to then be able to use those gifts that were used against you for good is just awesome. I love hearing that and how you navigate that. And I do think when you go through something like what you've described, and I've had a similar experience having to look at very, very, very dysfunctional family dynamics, and you are like, I'm going to look at this so closely and see what is it I really think? What do I really believe? What's really going on in there? And do I agree? Or am I breaking up with this belief? Are we going to like break up and I'm going to have an uncommitment ceremony to this belief and bye. And once you've done that as a coach, you do start to know the questions to ask. You do see the red flags in what clients are saying.
Oh, yeah.
The rewards of doing that kind of work and in the midst of it, having chocolate or fun with friends, some wine, whatever helps you relax and get out of your head is so huge because you do get to that freedom. You do get to that self-love and you do get to joy. Because you're like, oh, this is all BS. Oh, I swallowed a bill of goods and I inherited some beliefs because my whole family believes this, or genetics. It's just a whole belief system around my energy field. And I'm going to make a lot of choices now and be really conscious and then have a snack.
Right. And it is about becoming really conscious. And that is the ongoing practice, because we can go unconscious. And sometimes we need to. We need to turn it off because it's just the pain, the anguish, especially if you're empathic. Sometimes we need to turn it off so that we can just kind of reset. And I just want to go back to what you said about being raised in a dysfunctional. If you look at my childhood, which I've been doing because my mother passed, it was a great childhood. It was beautiful. My mom was awesome at creating amazing family life. But there was also the elephant in the room that no one talked about. She would say to me, oh, don't be so sensitive.
I hate that one.
That started when I was 3, when my brother was born. You have to be responsible for him and everybody else. So all of this helped co-create my belief system that I was worthless. And maybe if I died, then they'd all love me. I felt unloved, even though my parents loved me to the best of their abilities. I felt unloved because what I felt was unseen and unheard. And I almost died when I was finally diagnosed with diabetes. And I realized I had a belief that if I were to die, they'd finally love me. So I had to undo that, unwind that. And there's all sorts of other beliefs that a dysfunctional family will put on a small child that we don't even know, right? I raised a son. He's 26. He's amazing. I know he's got his own baggage that I helped him co-create, that my ex-husband helped co-create, right? So this dysfunction in a family, like we were talking about at the very beginning, Amanda, is also where you get to see, okay, these were the sweet times. These were the good times. And the stuff that was really yucky, yeah, it's there, but am I going to continue to focus on the yucky? Not denying, but focus on the stuff that actually did create a happy, healthy childhood and life. And that's the process I'm in right now, clearly.
I had shared with Susan before the podcast that I'm in the midst of cleaning out my parents' house and coming across wonderful things, like a lot of really happy memories, which is really fun to have more on the front of my mind. And I think I've pushed through a lot of because there was not a lot of resolution when they died, not a lot of awareness, very locked ideas. And I had my own locked ideas. So it just was very unsatisfying. Like it was like, oh God, the show is over. Crap. It's unresolved. But it's been years and I do feel like I've let so much go and have just a deeper understanding. You've got people from another time period raising you. It's just, and they have some horrible ideas about things, and
yes,
and no coping mechanisms, and they were dealing with wars. So
yeah, and this is what I got to tap on that, Amanda. This is what we're seeing right now too. The entire fall of the patriarchy. That was about war, and it was necessary for that time. It no longer works. And the ones that we're seeing run around right now, unconscious, they're mostly white men, are the ones that want to keep it the same. Thank God the younger generation, like my son and his friends, they've come into manhood differently, recognizing that any relationship, whether it's a business relationship or a cohabitation relationship, it takes two. And the partnership is about both working together, doing the same thing, not the man goes out and makes a living and the woman stays at home, which is how I was raised. I grew up in the middle of the 70s with women's liberation movement and thinking my mother was less than because she was staying at home.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time. It's an exciting time in that way, seeing like with the Me Too movement, like enough is friggin' enough. And even watching TV shows that were on 10 years ago going like, oh, wow, this would not fly right now.
Yeah.
That long ago. And I just wanted to go back a little bit to what you were talking about in terms of vibration and the way that like we heal, we work on ourselves, or we let go of stuff, or however we want to put it. We let go of that heavier energy of bitterness or victimhood or sadness. And not to say that, sadness will no doubt be with us all the time. It's a human emotion, but sometimes it's so stored in the body that it is weighing us down. But hearing about like the vibration of the world, if listeners are not used to that language, if we just think about the vibe we get when we sit in someone's presence, that vibe of like, oh, I love being in their energy. And I think that's where we, love tuning into certain podcasts, reading certain books, watching certain actors who bring that special something to the screen or whatever. We want to be in their energy. And it's interesting to me when we think about what we translate about that energy, we can start to put words. Oh, I feel safe in that energy. Or that energy feels encouraging, or that energy is fun, or that energy is so gentle, or is so nurturing. I just feel full after being in that energy. We can see there are belief systems connected to the energy. And so for me, having let go of a lot of like bitterness, and I want to talk about the blame, victim, shame game in a moment, like I physically feel lighter. I'm actually a little heavier physically.
Oh, yeah.
Like I know I gained weight. Like it's interesting when you were talking about being a size 0, like that's actually kind of like, I know there's a layer of that where it's like, oh my God, you were size 0, but like, what? You didn't weigh anything? Like that's a 0? Don't we want to stay on the earth? It's so weird. The idea of like, well, there's less of us, then that's good that we're taking up less space. And I said to a friend, I'm like, me, my cellulite and we're going to change the world. It's here. It's probably here to stay. And I'm also, I know I'm also a lot more confident and healed than I was when I had less.
When I came through my divorce, and I was happy, I was heavier, just like you said. And people would look at me, what's different? Did you cut your hair? No. What's different? Did you lose weight? No. It was because I was energetically lighter. So energy is an electrical field. Everything is electrical. Ancient acupuncture, they talk about the chi and meridians. That's all energy. So it's not like a woo thing from the new age and you walk into a crystal store and you have energy. No, we all have it already. It's about becoming consciously aware that you have it, that you are it, and then how to consciously utilize that energy for the highest good, not only for yourself, but anybody you interact with, which is what you were talking about being empathic. The reason why we pick up empathic cues is because our energy system is attuned to certain levels of vibration. And there is times where you can walk through the grocery store and there'll be somebody in the aisle and you go, oh, I have to go to a different aisle because some of that energy is really gooey and it's not healthy energy.
Thank you for putting words to all of that. Yes, the blame, victim, shame game. How many players do we need to play? What are the rules? How do we win?
You mean how do we win in terms of staying in the blame, shame, victim role, or how do we get out of it?
I'm being ridiculous. Yes, I know, and I love that. We don't win. I feel like I'm very close to giving up. Cleaning out the house is helping me. Like, all right, that's a wrap. I'm cleaning off the set of all the drama and the comedy that happened here.
I'm having chills as you're saying that, Amanda. Oh my God, I'm just going to send you lots of love. The way you said it, and that's a wrap. I'm sending you lots of love as you finish that because, oh my God, I have chills. So, blame, shame, victim game. You can have as many people as you want to be players, right? I know people that have a list of how many people are in their blame or resentment or shame. But what I found is it's really only one person, and it's me. I'm currently struggling with this right now in terms of a family matter. And I'm like, oh, I resent this. I resent that. I resent, which is blaming. When we develop a resentment list, that's so that we can blame them. We can show them the list and tick it off. See, and then you did this and you didn't do that. That's blaming. So for me, when I become clarified that it's me doing the blaming or me wanting to shame that person or shame myself or blame myself, I can't even tell you in the last month how many times I told myself, Susan, why don't you just keep your mouth shut? Why'd you have to say that? That's blaming. Instead of just having the full confidence to trust in oneself. For me, I find that there's only one player and it's me. And the only way to get out of it is to become really clear when I'm developing those lists or I'm running the story. There's the other thing about the victim thing. And I did this in the last month since my mom passed away. I was running around telling my friends my story, my victim story.
Oh.
And I was really tempted to start the story here with you. And I'm like, wow, look at that.
I have a friend who says you get 3 times to tell your victim story and then that's it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want it coming out of your mouth. You've got to get rid of it, change it, journal it out, that kind of stuff.
No Saturday matinee.
No Saturday matinee, unless it's Fred Astaire or Gene Kelly. So the whole victim thing, I mean, this is what we're seeing right now with the whole lockdown of the last 6-8 months, the presidential election. We're seeing blaming, we're seeing shaming, we're seeing people running around being victims because there's no resources to help them realize where their power is, unless you come to me or Amanda and people like us, because then we'll help you develop the resources to deal with the story, the victim story, to deal with the shame or the blame or the fear or the guilt or whatever, right? Most people were taught that that's how you navigate life. There's always somebody at fault. Instead of looking, and this is what conscious human beings do, going within, what is my responsibility in this situation?
Yeah. And it's a thing too of horrible things happen to people. Yeah. And it's like, and being, fully honest with what's happened to us so we can heal. But it's then not getting stuck there. I think I love what you said about who am I now? Because it's like, okay, if I was deeply hurt by this, I'm wounded, I'm really hurt. Who am I now? I'm someone who had that experience. I'm understanding why it all happened. Don't want it to ever happen again. Don't want it to happen to other people. I'm going to do what I can in my power to not allow that. And now I want to be happy. It's interesting having a death in the family and seeing what your story is.
Yeah, exactly.
Acknowledge that pain. Acknowledging that pain is important, but there's that place where we need to shift.
We need to move on. If you focus on the stuff that happened in your past, and there's lots of not good stuff, like you said, that's happened in many people's past. If you focus on what that was, you just stay there. You just live in the past. And for me, I really chose, and I still choose, to live my most empowered life that's full of freedom and happiness and love, loving myself first and then loving those around me. So when the past comes up, the story of the past, the victim story or the shaming and blaming. In fact, I felt this in my divorce. There was a time I was standing in my kitchen and I was feeling these waves of shame. And I was like, what is that about? And as I was attempting to go into another room, I felt like these shackles grab my ankles and hold me down so that I wouldn't be able to address what the shame was. Do you know what I'm saying? So that I could stay stuck in my old story, my victimhood, the blame, and that was an energy thing that happened to me. When people become conscious, you can become aware of when other individuals in your past, living or not, are still trying to hold you in place, are still trying to keep you from being the best, the most confident, the most empowered you can be, the most amazing light. There are people that will hold you. It's important to become aware consciously of who those people are. And then you get to decide, do they stay? Like you said earlier, do they stay or do they go? And oh my God, sometimes they just have to exit stage left and hit the stage door and keep walking.
Totally. And those can be very, very hard decisions. And
yes, they are.
You decide. I think so much of the healing for me has been getting in touch with what I'm feeling and the energy in my body. My mind, not so helpful because it's often in those patterns and those beliefs, but the body tells the truth. The body knows, like, wow, I feel so expansive and free when I'm not around that person. Interesting. I don't like this truth, but I can't ignore it. Oh, and that sense of shame, it really sucks. It really feels really icky. But when we allow ourselves to fully feel whatever's trapped in our energy system, in our body, then it will start to dissipate. And I think when we can be like, oh, ew, and just allow it to be, I've said this in other podcasts, that sense of like, it's a meal you didn't fully digest. I don't know what happened in elementary school or college or with that stupid boyfriend, whatever it is. You felt really embarrassed about something, but like had nowhere to go with it. Did not know what to do with it. It's stuck in there. Or other people are just like shaming you for something, which is insane. But according to your belief systems, it's horrible. But it needs to just come out. And so you can not judge it, let it come out. It's so great when that stuff dissipates.
I love what you said about it's a meal you didn't digest, because so many people right now have gut issues. And it's interesting, especially middle-aged women. And everybody's walking around going, why am I bloated? It is exactly because there's undigested ideas. Undigested food, yes, there's that physicality of it, but there's undigested ideas or undigested energy that hasn't been reintegrated into the body. And I agree with you too about the mind is the place that keeps you busy, right? Like sorting through all the papers for divorce or the papers at your folks' house and stuff. It just keeps you busy and distracted, but that's not where truth lies. Truth lies in the heart and in the gut, in the solar plexus. And that's, your emotional GPS, like you said earlier too. That's where you can learn to navigate from it. And that's one of the things I teach my clients and in my Facebook group is go first to the heart. If you really want to find freedom and happiness and brilliance, then you got to get out of the mind and into the heart, because that's the guidance system you need.
Completely. Now, is there a certain energy system that you use to work with your clients, or are you going with the flow with them in terms of encouraging them to feel what they feel or describe what they're feeling?
You need to feel what you're feeling. And so many of us stuff our feelings with external things like food and alcohol or shopping or sexing, so you have to feel your feelings. But when I work, and I do this in my guided meditations, I always start with breathing into the heart space, because that breath connects you. This goes back to spirit. The breath is the thing that infuses us with life. Breath is the vitality of life. So focusing it into the heart space energetically allows that heart space, not the physical beating heart, but the heart space, which is a chakra area, to open and expand. And the more we can expand it beyond the physical body, right, as we know it, into the mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies, the bigger that love within us becomes. I mean, we create a larger container to be the love that we are. And so to breathe into that heart space and allow it to expand is the first thing of any class I lead, any client session, anything. And because I know for me, when I expand my heart, then I'm not outside in the world judging as much sometimes.
Yeah, well said, very candid, very honest. Yes. The thing is, it's fine for us to assess stuff. It's like, I think that's the thing. Like, do I like this sweater or that sweater? Get the one you like better. Like, we've judged it. We've assessed it. And like, will I vote for this candidate or this candidate? We are assessing. So I think some of that's fine. I think it's when it has that condemnation. And it's fun to just observe, like, oh, this is that experience. Like, I think about Christmas ornaments and how sometimes I'm like, wow, I think that's really tacky. But as a kid, I would have been like, oh my God, they have so many cool lights and look at all that stuff. Where now I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I hear you. I totally hear you.
My inner child is like, yes. Some language I heard you use in one of the podcasts I listened to were choice points in our lives, pivot points. And perhaps it's obvious what that means, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit about what that means when you use it with clients, those terms, choice points and pivot points.
So lots of people if you're in the victim blame game thing, you don't realize you have a choice. That's why you are constantly on that loop in your head of all the he did me wrong or she did me wrong crap. And so when you become aware that there is a choice, that there are certain degrees you can open up your awareness and see, oh, wow, there are possibilities, right? Open up that awareness, even if it's, 2 degrees, to see I have a different choice. And that's why I call them pivot points too, because you can go from being the victim to being confident just by making the choice, like we've talked about before, of choosing not to be the victim or choosing not to blame that person. The more we practice that, just like working out at a gym, which I haven't done in months, right? When we practice that, then it becomes more habitual to pull ourselves short, to stop a minute and reflect. Okay, this is a choice point. Do I want to choose to eat that bag of pretzels or not? Do I want to choose to go for a walk or not? Do I want to choose to be in relationship with this person or not? I had a client, she saw me like a year ago. She's like, I know I need to get divorced, but I don't have a choice. I'm like, whoa, hold on. What do you mean? The choice was there wasn't money. The choice was he was going to take the child. The choice was, if she made that choice of divorce, all these bad things would happen. Except that she didn't actually know for sure that that was going to happen until she actually filed for divorce. And then she moved out, and then she had her child. The thing that scares us the most is often the thing we have to investigate and say, okay, what are the other choice points? How can I pivot here?
Yeah. And again, inherent in the belief that I have choice is like, I deserve things. And it could be that I'm choosing to stay because I deserve to be yelled at all the time because I am a bad person.
Oh,
Or I choose to leave because I deserve to be in a quiet home or a peaceful home or a home full of laughter where I feel safe. I deserve safety. I deserve. And so, yes, I love that. And that sense of choice. It is fascinating when you notice in your own thoughts, like, I have to. Do you? You have to go to the bathroom. There are certain non-negotiables there where it's happening. We don't have a choice. Beautiful. I love all of this. So let's talk about synchronicity for a second, because it's a fascinating topic. What do you see with your clients in general, or even specifically, where they start to have more confidence, that trust in themselves or their trust in their connection to the divine unfolding of life, their purpose, all of those beautiful things? How do you see that synchronicity, that things falling into place? How do you see that dance playing out?
well, I see it often, and it's beautiful to watch. And I've had clients that don't get it. I have to kind of point out to them, you made this choice, and then this thing came in and aligned with you. Do you not see that that's synchronistic? Do you not see that that's a result of this particular choice you made? And it takes them a while to learn, to begin to, again, it's like taking the blinders off, right? To open their eyes, their inner ears, and see that there's a myriad of possibilities. And we call that synchronicity. And a lot of people are using that word blithely as, oh, well, it was so synchronistic. I found the parking place. When we can become more aware that that is actually another energetic affirmation, listening to my inner directions, right? My inner wisdom. That's how I see synchronicity. Okay, I'm doing this. Yeah, I get a parking place, but in the larger scope of life, the synchronicity shows up and I'm like, okay, I'm being affirmed that this is the next thing for me. This is the next step. Got it. Thank you. Because you can't often see that far ahead of yourself anymore.
We really want to, though. And I know with the pandemic, it is such a nail biter. And we often like that in movies. We don't like it so much when it's happening to us. That sense of, is school happening virtually? No, it's in person. Nope, it changed. I'm not a parent, so I feel so much for parents.
Oh, yes.
Just in terms of watching from afar and watching my sister and her family with what is school? This thing we just take for granted. That sense of having to be in the moment. I don't know. Can I travel? I don't know. Should I see you? I don't know. There is a good discipline in that. I know that when I let go of things having to be that certain way, often they do fall in place a lot more.
Easily.
Yeah, that sense of oh, okay, that's not working. All right, moving on. Oh, it just came through. Okay, oh, that's not, so I'm not resisting what is. I think that can feel a lot lighter and I'm in a much better mood. And then for anyone I connect with, it's going to be a much better experience. And maybe they'll be more likely to help me because I wasn't an asshole because I just wanted in that moment. It is very interesting. And yeah, what we believe matters. We are creating our lives. So Susan, I'd love to ask you about feminine energy. There's a lot of talk about the world needing more of it and that more of it is coming to the forefront. What is it to you?
Again, I'm getting just chills shooting down me. So feminine energy is different, okay? there's the idea that if a woman's feminine, that's her feminine energy, right? Of however she presents herself, stiletto heels or not. But the thing that's really happening now, and I talked earlier about the patriarchal, which is part of the divine masculine, the divine feminine. So I'm moving it from feminine energy to the divine feminine. So the divine feminine has been hitting the planet for at least very strongly the last 5 years, probably prior to that. And what the divine feminine does is what we're witnessing. It is Shiva. Shiva is a Hindu god that creates chaos and destroys things. The divine feminine is doing that. That's why we're seeing everything in chaos, because the divine feminine won't put up with the bullshit, whether it's how we're treating ourselves or how we're treating the world, the planet. And so it is definitely a reckoning energy. We've got to come to recognize who we are and how we've been behaving or how we've been believing. And then again, we have choice. So do I want to continue to be that destroyer, or do I want to be the builder of a new humanity in alignment with the divine feminine energy? So the thing that people, especially people that are incarnated as men right now on the planet, are afraid of is that the feminine energy is going to take over the world, and then, what's in it for them kind of thing. But the thing about the divine feminine is it is in partnership with the divine masculine. The divine feminine isn't coming to erase the divine masculine. It is coming to break apart the patriarchy. If the masculine can have control, then they get the top. So the CEO of the major company gets to have all the money and the bonuses of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, while the workers that are building the company, right, that make this shit that gets sold so that CEO can have money, get nothing, right? That is the old masculine patriarchal paradigm, and it is breaking apart. We're watching all of it shatter. That's why the Me Too movement move forward. Now, the divine feminine is a circular energy. And because it's a circular energy, it is inclusive. It includes everyone. Everyone. In the ancient times, indigenous people would sit in a circle around a fire, and they'd sit in a circle, men and women, and everybody got to share their wisdom. So the divine feminine is bringing us into a more circular way of operating. I was sharing this with my mom a couple of years ago, and she started freaking out. Who's going to be in charge? And I was like, wow, see, we all get to be in charge. This is why it's very important, and I know this is going to air after, but this is why it's very important to vote, because we all get a say. And the divine feminine is all about equalization. It's all about inclusivity. Doesn't matter what color you are or what sexual partner you want to be with. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It's about inclusivity. And so that's what's happening. We're living through the breakdown and therefore the rebirthing, I guess, or building anew a society that will work for all of us, a world that can work for everyone, not just the people at the top that want to take all the money. And where are you going to take it, really? Where are you going to take that money? Right? Because we all die. But they want to have it for whatever reason, so people can be in refugee camps or that kind of stuff. And when we align with that divine feminine energy, there's more opportunity. You do have to do the inner work because, like I said, the divine feminine will slap you around.
I'm really glad I asked that question because I think I hadn't thought of it in terms of those two distinctions. Divine feminine energy versus feminine energy in a human way. So that's awesome. Why don't you tell us about your book?
So after I went through divorce and deconstruction and shattering and reconstruction and happiness, I realized I had a book. The book is called Live an Empowered Life. It's a 30-day journey. Live an Empowered Life, the 30-day journey. And when I put it together, I thought, oh, people could do this in 30 days. I mean, you don't have to do it in 30 days. It's an interactive workbook. So it interacts with my website because there's guided meditations I want people to watch. There's videos to explain certain processes. It's a book where you've got to journal. I'm a big believer in journaling the garbage in your head and get it out. But there's also affirmations that I created and worked when I was going through divorce that I asked people to journal on. Then it's kind of I start where it's built so that you can get in there gently, but you get to see all your stuff at the beginning. And then you kind of navigate gently, and then I'll take people deeper, and then it goes up again to where it's gentle, and then we go deeper. And by the end of the journey, you will have discovered more about the truth of who you are and what your values are, your core values, if you didn't know them. You get to reassess. You get to have these pivot points. Do I really want to continue to be this way, or do I want to change? And you come out with a renewed idea of what your purpose is for being here on the planet at this time. So it's Live an Empowered Life, a 30-day journey book.
That sounds excellent. And I love that it's connected to other things in terms of videos. And I think there's videos on your website connected.
Yeah, videos. And yep. One of the reasons why I wanted it to interact with my website is because some of this stuff is really, it might confront people. And I wanted them to feel like I was there on the journey with them, and if anybody does the book and they need to reach out to me, they can. But I really wanted them to feel like they had a companion, because I hate going on a trip by myself. I don't like going to a party by myself. I don't like going on a trip by myself. I need to know that I've got somebody with me. And so that's why it became interactive. And I also, prior to that, I had created affirmation cards that are affirmations and inspiring quotes and journaling prompts as well. And so before we started today, Amanda, I picked 3 cards. You want me to read them?
Of course I do.
Okay. So the first one I picked is, I am an expression of my own complete self. Sounds like confidence to me. There is no barrier to self-expression. I am love, harmony, and wellness. Then I picked, I am that. I am the love that I seek, the joy that I want, the peace that calms. And then the third one, because I always pick 3. I no longer participate in debilitating acts of invisibility, which have kept me from living my empowered life.
Love it. So much in there. The unfettered expression of self that in that first one, I love. I picture wearing an amazing outfit that like a 7-year-old girl picked out. This and this totally matches. Do it. What was the last one about invisibility? I think I saw that somewhere on your website and I really loved it. Can you read that one again?
Yeah. I no longer participate in debilitating acts of invisibility, which have kept me from living my empowered life.
Yeah, that's not a victim statement.
Like, actually, it was gifted to me by a mentor, and I was like, oh shit. Now I got to come out.
How intense the words are, debilitating.
Mm-hmm.
That's the word that's not messing around.
That's right.
So if people would like to work with you to look at these things in their own life, move forward towards freedom, etc., how can they do that? How can they find you? And what are the different ways they can work with you?
So I have on my website, susanburrell.com, you go to contact, and you can either book a 30-minute free session to see if you resonate with me and I resonate with you, or you can join my Facebook group, which is Live an Empowered Life. And in there, I'm doing guided meditations. We've got workshops. One is called Are You a Light Leader? And it's a 5-day live workshop that, lasts about 45 minutes each day, but there's homework and people have had wonderful transformation. So you can contact me through the website and check out the Facebook page, and then we go from there.
Excellent. That's great. And when you work with people one-on-one, how long does that commitment typically last?
I used to do one-on-one sessions, and it would be a one-off, and then they'd go on their merry way and life would change because of the work. And I'd meet them later and they'd say, oh, my life changed. But they never connected it to the work. So now, if anybody wants to work with me, I do require a 10-session commitment because the work is energetic. It's very subtle. You can transform in one session, but it's like clearing out your closet, right? The minute you clear out some garbage, more stuff comes in, right? You clear out the garbage and more stuff comes in. And so in 10 sessions, I've found that people have sustainable transformation by the time they leave. And that's important to me. I really want to work with the people that want to investigate if they are light leaders. I really want to work with people that want to become empowered and let go of the story, and work with people that want to be happier than they've ever been in their lives. And the people that want to hold a victim story, I gently, kindly say, I'm not for you, because I am about getting the work done. That's what I require of myself, and I require it of my clients.
Great. And 10 sessions, you can definitely go deep in there.
Oh, yeah.
Totally makes sense with the kind of work you're doing. So when you want to boost your confidence, is there a go-to outfit, accessory, activity that really helps you?
So I love that you brought up the outfit thing, because if I'm not feeling so much that, I put on the thing that makes me feel empowered. And that includes makeup, earrings, jewelry, high heels. A lot of people aren't wearing high heels, but I'm like, if I can just walk down to the corner and back in my high heels, I'll feel good, And in this time of COVID, so many people are like, I don't have makeup on right now, right? So many people are going to the market in their slippers and, they're not getting dressed. And yesterday I was at the market and there was this woman in a beautiful business outfit with high heels on. Now, clearly she must have gone to her office, but maybe not
At home and
right. And so it's funny when I do get dressed and go out, people are like, wow, where'd you go? I said, oh, no, nothing, nowhere. I was just running errands, but it makes me feel better.
I'm part of a civilized society that hopefully
Exactly.
we are co-creating.
Exactly.
Beautiful. Well, Susan, thank you so much for your time and all of your wisdom and your vulnerability. I'm excited to, when we edit this episode, to listen to it all again and take in another layer of all that we talked about. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, Amanda, for allowing me on and for honoring where I am in this moment in life, and right back at you. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing, because together we can make a difference.
Excellent. Thank you. The choices we make are directly tied to the energy we put out into the world. When you decide to quit that job that you hate or break up with your toxic partner, you send out a message that says you are ready for something better. And as Susan mentioned, energy has a ripple effect. So you'll notice that when you make positive choices in your life, opportunities open up, giving you the ability to make more and more healthy, smart, and exciting decisions. Are you at a pivot point in your life? Do you play the blame, shame, victim game? Never? Always? Sometimes? It can be easy to not be aware we're doing it because we feel so justified in our blame mode. But this is a really disempowered state of mind. If you feel stuck there, check out Susan's website, susanburrell.com. There, you'll learn more about Susan's work, be able to purchase her book, or schedule a consultation with her. Plus, you'll find access to interviews, interactive videos, and information about one-on-one coaching.
Well, that wraps up our empowering chat for the day. I hope you enjoyed it and found it inspired you to be more empowered. If you want to find out more about me, go to susanburrell.com, my website, and you can see what we're up to. I am teaching classes again, so there's a calendar of that, and you can register. You can check out my book, Live an Empowered Life, a 30-day journey with the companion inspiration cards, or you can access my guided meditations that go through Insight Timer. We got a bunch of stuff on the website. Check it out. And until then, namaste.